baby. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're back, if you are new, welcome to my channel. I am Shayna and I discuss all things vegan here, so I'm very happy to have you. Welcome. Today I will be talking to you about the life and the tragic death of a well-known vegan activist named Regan Russell, who was actually killed doing a peaceful protest in June of this year. This tragedy struck me particularly hard because she was killed doing a form of activism that I have done many times myself. And it was almost so surreal hearing about her case because that literally could have been me many times. And this form of protest is with the Animal Save movement, which is basically when activists bear witness to animals as they are driving into slaughterhouse gates, their last few moments before they go inside the slaughterhouse. Activists have the opportunity to bear witness if they so choose, or they can also give water to the animals, kind of just offer them a kind presence before their final moments. And it is something that a lot of vegan activists find extremely hard to do, but is also something that is good to see because you get that firsthand kind of experience seeing exactly what these animals, how distressed they are, how upset they are, how anxious they are in their final moments. The animals in the transport trucks are usually almost all the time covered in their own excrement. They're covered in feces. They are agitated, they're swaying back and forth, they're on top of each other. It's just a horrible thing to see, but as vegan activists, it is something that unfortunately we do get used to. I've seen it many times. It doesn't affect me now as much as it used to, but it still is just very disheartening and in some ways also disturbing. Most people who are not vegan choose not to see this kind of stuff because it would, in most cases, kind of sway them away from eating meat, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So with this form of activism, you oftentimes see anger and passive aggressiveness from people passing by in their cars, screaming bacon out the window, telling us that we're stupid, telling us that what we're doing is pointless. But you also experience aggression from the truck drivers, the men usually who are driving the animals into the actual slaughterhouse. Sometimes they'll run lights or run stop signs so we can't get to the trucks altogether, or they'll drive erratically to make you kind of not want to come up to the truck.
It is shocking, absolutely shocking, the lack of regard for the feelings of our fellow earthlings. It is shocking.
Yes, it is.
So I come every Sunday here.
I know. And oh my God, honestly, like since 1973, taking action to create change in this world. If that's not powerful, like holy
I'm trying.
crap, I need a high five for that.
Well,
like,
I don't know if it does any good, but I know
it does.
I know doing nothing does no good. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Regan was born on April 11th, 1955 in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and she was described as an absolutely beautiful human inside and out by everyone who knew her. She was described as being fearless, kind, compassionate, extremely articulate, and would do anything for all of those around her. Regan began campaigning for animal rights in her 20s. When she was 24 is when she kind of got involved in the animal rights movement, and she became vegan when she was 30 years old. One thing about Regan, she was an intersectional vegan. She wasn't just vegan. She stood up for animal rights, but also human rights. She was part of the Black Lives Matter movement. She was very vocal about being part of the Black Lives Matter movement, and she also stood up for women's rights. Of course, she was very vocal about that as well. Something that she's quoted saying, I'll read it to you, is, "People say we're breaking the law by storming. How do you think women got the right to vote? How do you think slavery was abolished? People stood up and they broke the laws because they were stupid laws." Those are her words, and a lot of vegans feel this way. Legality does not equal morality. The two words are not synonymous, so just because something is a law, just because it is legal to eat animals, does not mean that it is morally sound. And that is what she said, not only about animals and what animals go through, but of course also about what humans go through and the injustices that Black people and women go through all the time. Russell was struck by a truck driver who was driving animals into the Fearman's pork meat processing plant on June 19th of this year at 10:20 a.m. What typically happens at these vigils is truck drivers, they make a right or left turn into the slaughterhouse parking lot. And in this case, where the vigil was being held, the slaughterhouse, the road that is perpendicular to the entrance of the slaughterhouse. So you go into the slaughterhouse this way, the road is going this way. It's a 4-lane road going this way. So obviously the truck drivers are typically turning right from the far right lane. But the truck driver that actually hit Regan stopped at a green light, which was weird, in the 3rd lane from the left. So he wasn't even in the lane that they would typically turn from. He stopped in the 3rd lane from the left, blocking traffic at a green light. So the activists had to go into the street, obviously putting themselves at risk of potentially being struck by a car that was passing by. And obviously this was a form of aggression. There's no way that you can talk around this unless the truck just happened to break down at the green light. It didn't make sense for him to stop in the middle of traffic in a lane that he typically would not turn from, unless he was trying to get the activists to come out into the road and risk their lives. Here is a picture of where Regan was actually standing in relation to the truck. So he was stopped at the light in the 3rd lane from the left, and Regan was standing in front of the gate to the entrance of the slaughterhouse, which is very common. Activists are there all the time during these vigils because it gives the other activists a little bit more time to bear witness, give the pigs water, you know, kind of just spend some time with them before they go into the slaughterhouse. Regan was standing directly in front of the gate within direct vision of the truck driver. What was also odd about this truck driver was that he stopped at the light, at the green light, started turning into the parking lot in front of the gate where Regan was standing. He stopped again, according to eyewitnesses, and then he floored it. Like, he went forward faster than what made sense. It's understood and it is assumed that the truck driver saw Regan and other activists standing there, slowed down to maybe give them a chance to move, but when they didn't move, he floored it. He hit the gas and he ran over Regan. He dragged her 15 to 20 feet and there was blood everywhere. Her blood was dragged across the parking lot grounds. And here's a picture of slaughterhouse workers cleaning it up after the fact. Some skeptics of this case believe that maybe Regan was standing in a spot that was a blind spot for the truck driver. Maybe he just simply did not see her. This is extremely unlikely. And again, I'm speaking from firsthand experience. Regan was doing these vigils for 40 years. As you do the vigils and as you participate more and more often, you learn where it's safe to stand. We're aware that the truck drivers are usually moving erratically because they don't want us to get up to the truck to spend time. We're aware that sometimes they run lights, they run stop signs. You know where to stand, you know where not to stand. You kind of get an idea for how long it's safe to stand by the truck before you should move also. So given that Regan had been doing these vigils for so many years, it doesn't make any sense, the theory that she was just standing in a blind spot, that she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, Regan was in direct vision, the direct line of vision of the truck driver. There's proof by photos of exactly where she was standing, and we know for a fact that he saw her. According to some eyewitnesses who were actually at the scene, the truck driver was staring directly at Regan prior to hitting her. You may think, oh, what's the chances that they were looking at him directly? But that was actually a deliberate thing that we do at vigils. It is a deliberate thing. I haven't been in a little while, but when I was participating, one of the organizers, would typically pay close attention to what exactly the truck driver was doing, any gestures, if he was on the phone. They even recorded the driver most of the time because we know that they could be aggressive. So it doesn't surprise me that there was an eyewitness specifically talking about what the truck driver was doing inside the truck, but they claimed that he was looking directly at Regan, had an aggressive expression on his face, and was fully aware that he was hitting her before it happened. The driver of the truck has been charged with careless driving causing death under Ontario's Highway Traffic Act. But according to police, there were no grounds to indicate that it was intentional or that it was considered a criminal offense. And if convicted, the driver could receive up to a $50,000 fine imprisonment for up to 2 years, and a license suspension for up to 5 years. So I'm assuming this is still an ongoing investigation. I was not able to find any personal information about the driver. I was not able to find if he was convicted. I wasn't able to find pretty much anything else aside from what I presented to you today. And it's especially tragic because Regan spent so much of her life rallying and advocating for others, other people, other beings in general, and she was killed in the act. She was killed while standing up for innocent lives. And that's just something that's incredibly disheartening to think about. I remember the time dedicated to doing vigils. I remember the emotional toll that doing vigils took on me. I remember the emotional toll that it took on other activists. So I can only imagine the level of conviction that this woman had and the level of dedication that she had to her vegan rights activism, because she did it for so long and she did it so often. She was a well-known activist. She wasn't just some random lady who popped in every once in a while. No, she was committed. She was there all the time. This was her life. This was her purpose. Equality for all. This truck driver probably just really didn't care in the moment. He probably didn't, if he didn't see her, he probably didn't care to take the extra second to make sure nobody was standing there. And it's unfortunate. Of course, there's always the possibility that it was an accident. I wasn't there. I can't say. But all I can say is that it doesn't look like one. I remember the feeling of being at vigils and the feeling of knowing that the truck drivers had an issue with us being there, and knowing that some of them were purposefully aggressive, like went out of their way to be aggressive, not just rolling their eyes or driving past. Some of them would scream things or say things, or you could just feel that they didn't want you to be there. Slaughterhouses need to be shut down because the employees oftentimes have PTSD. They're surrounded by death. They're surrounded by disease. A lot of them are in horrible working conditions, not just the truck drivers, but also the people, probably more so the people who are working inside of the slaughterhouses. They're in horrible conditions. They're treated very poorly. They're treated poorly just like the animals are. But mentally, I can only imagine what these employees are going through and the toll that it's taking on them in the long term. Slaughterhouses are horrible places. They are obviously houses of death, and hopefully one day I get to live to see them abolished. This was a heavy one, and I am sorry that I'm hitting y'all with so much heavy stuff, but I just felt like I needed to talk about that one. It's been something that for the last few videos I thought about talking about, but I'm like, I don't know if it's really appropriate to mention it, but it does seem appropriate to raise awareness about what happened to Regan. I've been rambling long enough. This video has gone on long enough. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace.